I got it working. What do you know? As of yesterday, I didn't want to stream it today because, well, I was bouncing around, man. I tried everything under the sun, tried different approaches, different things, tried different examples, and ultimately I just did something that was a hybrid of everything that I had in there and everything that I was learning and different examples of how people did things similarly for other things, but finding the exact example of doing it for this, I was yeah, that was interesting. So ultimately, I did get it working. I got all of my unit tests, the 3 unit tests that are on here, fully succeeding, as you can see here. Success, success, success. Um, I had to definitely change the Coursera um, learning exercises to or examples to fit what I'm doing. Okay, because I was using the way the function is created when you use the latest code, the latest .NET 8. You're using Visual Studio 2022, not 2019. You're using .NET 8.0. Was it isolated versus .NET? I don't know, whatever they had it at framework 6 or something. They were using an older version. So ultimately, it was it was a completely different. Um, well, I won't say completely different, but enough so that a significant amount of changes had to be made. Um, I'm going to update my tags here real quick. Let's see here. What did I do? Let's see. HTTP trigger, Azure function unit testing. So yeah, I have I have quite a bit going on here, and it was challenging to find a working version. Now there was a lot of people who had what do you call it? Azure unit testing out there. A lot of them are doing similar examples to what the Coursera was. A lot of them were 2, 3 years old, and they were not using the current, or were not using this format. Um, then some were using later code, as in they were using JavaScript or something like that. Not later, as in date, but I mean more recent code, but it was using a different language. And then there's a few different versions out there that were trying. Like I was trying to, once I couldn't find a matching example of what I was trying to do, I decided to go with, well, let's see if I could just fix the particular problems. Now there was a couple of problems that really had me kind of struggling. One of them was this default HTTP context, and I'll show you basically the exercise from Coursera has you do. Let's use this. I gotta make sure I'm in the right thing. Okay, so you have the HTTP. For one, you're using this internal thing, ASP.NET HTTP internal. Yeah, you don't use that no more, or at least this to get this working. I didn't. I had to get rid of that because that doesn't even exist anymore. There is no internal on the ASP.NET core.http. That just was a compilation error, so I had to get rid of that. Additionally, when you come down further, you have these HTTP default HTTP contexts. It did not set up this way. You can see where it says query equals new query collection. You add that, that's part of your request. You go into this request object here. So, but you can see instead, I actually created a new default HTTP context. And as a result, and request is a value or an object within the HTTP context. You can no longer actually access the request object as an HTTP request. So if you want to get that working, you have to actually go with this default HTTP context and then assign the query object to the request within that context, because that's how you get the request object back. No longer can you hit it directly because it's now considered, it's not it was changed to private, I guess, instead of internal, but it feeds it to you. It brings it back up to you through this HTTP context, the new setup. So you can see it's slightly different. You still use the generic dictionary, string values. All this piece is the same, but you're just assigning it to the query collection against the request object that's part of the context instead. So once you go on to the next thing, then you got the logger. Then I had the logger issues. That was fun. Ultimately, it doesn't look a ton different, I don't believe. I did get the HTTP request that I pulled from this request object. This is a generic request object, and I just assigned it from that so that I could use it as an object. And then the logger issue, boy, this one had me going for a while. I could not figure out creating the logger with this watch info. I didn't know how to do this. Ultimately, it kept saying you need a different kind of object, and I was like, well, what do you mean? I need an object, whatever. It was just giving me a weird error, and I was looking around, and it turns out that this declared the logger with a type declaration, which you don't necessarily have to do, but it did because it wanted to set it up, I guess, the logging as a format of the watch info, and it resulted in me having an issue with trying to pass it in. So I eventually came up with just declaring the type of this logger from within here. I didn't know you could do that because I thought you would have had to create an instance of the watch, because I'm not referencing watch info anywhere here prior to this line. But apparently it exists, and as long as you put it in there, it says, okay, as soon as I see this, I'm going to expect it to be that type, I guess. And then that's what you're doing here. So this watch info type of the logger, I created the logger object, then I passed that logger object through to watch info, which made this work because the run request needed the logger value, but it was no longer a parameter. As you can see here, we actually come down here and they actually send it through as a parameter. And you got watch info does not have any extra declarations, but again, that's just the way this is set up. You got the logger here as part of the constructor. You have to send the logger in when you're declaring it, and that's what you're doing here. You're calling the logger, you're instantiating it, and now you have to pass in a logger object, and that's what I did here in defining it as the same type of watch info. You can see logger is not a value, a parameter on run anymore. It doesn't have to be because you're calling it in the constructor. Again, that's just the way it gets set up in Visual Studio in the latest versions default setups. So we continue on where we get the logger. I took out response.wait. I didn't know if that was useful, but it didn't work. It was saying there's no longer a wait object on the response. I'm guessing since this is an action result, it does. I mean, I know it doesn't have it, and maybe it doesn't need it because it's a different type of object. So if you go down a little bit further, you see that you're actually looking at the result value of response, but you don't need to do that anymore. The action result actually comes back as the type that is going to match. So we have it here saying, hey, is it okay object result? And assert that it is. And if it succeeds, then we have a success, and we did. And then we go to the next, this next one. Other changes were, again, there was a couple other references to the response.result in both of these lines. I changed both of them to just take the result off. It worked fine. Watch info, there's nothing else here. You can see that it works. It pretty much looks the same in those lines. I just had to make sure I use my right variables. I did try to declare a variable up here as watch info, setting this up in advance, and then just decided I didn't need to do that. It was an extra line of code that wasn't necessary. And it also led me to not have to, I could change just the dynamic, which would allow me to allow it to change types from whatever to string. Then we went on to the next one, and essentially is the same changes. I did the default context. I had to change the request to the request object. that was created from this. So I just had to change using this new stuff that I did up here to function in these other values. And that included taking results off of here, passing the logger as this type. But it's the same. I did it the same on both. This one has the same values, except it changes what you have in here. So yeah, ultimately everything worked once we got the values in, and poof. Now I have unit testing for my Azure HTTP trigger function built with C# and .NET 8 isolated and xUnit unit tests. So yeah, there you go. Now finally, I should be able to go on and wipe out this this class module. It took me way longer than I'd hoped, because I was really expecting I would get through this as of yesterday, but I was wrong. It was definitely more work than I expected it to be. You know, that's the thing about, so if you take the class, you can download the older versions. They're just deprecated. You can download the old code, the old stuff, and follow along, and it'll work. To each his own. I don't like that. I want to use the latest, because that's what I'm training for. I want to be caught up. I want to be ready to move on with the existing things in their latest forms. And if the class is 3 years old, just be prepared that things are not going to match up to the reality of now. Same thing with like all those Azure fixes I had to do, and workarounds I've had to do, because Azure Free is not exactly the same as Sandbox, I assume. I don't know, maybe Sandbox is the same, but whatever it is, I set up a free account before and I wasn't allowed to do Sandbox as a result of that. I'm not worried about it. I found a way to work around it. I prefer working in VS Code and Visual Studio. So I'm not too concerned about that as a problem. Ultimately, I think it makes me a better programmer, right? Because, you know, I could learn the old way, but it's more useful to anybody I'm working with, to any company I'm working with, to know the current stuff. You know, maybe I could even update code if they're still using the old stuff, because some of this stuff is not significantly old. It's just knowing what it is that's new and how to do the new. And if you can practice it and learn it, then you know the new. I could convert a unit test now that uses these types of logger, or this type of default HTTP connection from the old version without too much trouble now. For one, I have an example that I will keep because I know how this works. So I can go here and now mark that as completed. Go to the practice quiz, which I believe this is not going to be a practice quiz. I believe this is just a did you do it. Yes, this is exactly what I thought. Go here. Did you complete the exercise? Well, yes, I did. Okay. So now it's a knowledge check. Now this is actually like a test, and this is also like a test, because you do a test prep at the end of each week, I guess, each module. I don't even know, did you do it at the end of each module? No, you do it at the end of each week. So I can go do this knowledge test, and we can kind of see, it's probably about 5 to 7 questions. It's 5. And they look pretty simple. Selection. True or false, to be able to develop, test, and deploy Azure functions locally using Visual Studio, you also need to install the Azure Functions and Web Job Tools extension. Oh boy, you know what? That's been a week. I don't remember. Web Job Tools extension. Did I have to install Web Job Tools extension? I think the answer is yes. Web Job Tools extension. Did I have to install that extension? Let's go see. I mean, the answer is whatever this says, because web job. There is no web job. So if I did, I don't now. You know, that'd be funny if they're asking you about something that is not required anymore. Web compiler. I don't see an extension on here called web job tools. Do you? So I'm gonna say no. You also need to install the Azure Functions and Web Job Tools extension. Oh, let's go look at installed. The only thing I installed, according to this, well, I didn't install any kind of extension on here. There were things we had to do. Now, is that considered? Now, there were updates we had to make to Visual Studio that you add Azure stuff, but are those extensions? Or that's just programming? I don't believe. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say false. You also need. If I'm wrong, that'll be interesting because I don't remember installing this. And maybe 2022 I didn't need to, or it was part of the update you do for Azure, but that's not really an extension, right? That's just, you know, you're adding features via the update, but I don't know. Okay, you are planning on creating a solution that will automatically run on Azure Function app when a file is uploaded or modified in an Azure blob storage. What type of trigger should you configure on the Azure Function app? You are planning on creating a solution that will automatically run an Azure Function app when a file is uploaded. Oh, blob trigger. You are building a solution in which an Azure function is triggered by an HTTP request. You want to ensure that the request includes in the header a specific key only for that function that enables the Azure Function runtime to authorize the request. What type of level access rights should be configured on the function app and enables the Azure Function runtime to authorize requests only for that function? That'd be a function level. Function, yeah, because there's admin is like you have right to edit anything. Anonymous is just everybody can do it. There's no, I don't even think I don't even know if you need the same key or a key. You plan on setting up continuous deployment to maintain source control in your function code. Which of the following deployment sources are viable options in Azure? So we can do Bitbucket, GitHub. I don't even know what Box is. Is Box a thing? Can you do OneDrive? You can put source on OneDrive? That would be interesting. Huh. I don't remember. But no, Bitbucket and GitHub are. I don't even know what Box is. I'm going to go with no. I mean, just those two, but I could be wrong. I feel like in my head I remember her saying OneDrive. My mind's eye is saying OneDrive. But then again, I'm like, why would you put source on OneDrive? OneDrive is just a folder service, right? I mean, really? Could you do that? Continuous deployment to maintain source code? I don't know. That'd be interesting, though. It might. It just seems like a really rudimentary thing. What is the Azure command line interface command that permits zip deployment? AZ function app create. But you can, I mean, that works, but is that a zip deployment? I mean, AZ function app deployment? Probably, it's either deployment or zip. It's not create, because that's just a function that's going to create. Man, I could do bad on this one. I don't remember zip. I don't even remember, to be honest, I don't even remember hearing zip. I know create is a thing, but that's not going to be deployment. I know we have deployment, but I don't know anything about zip. Well, let's see. Function, you are building a solution in which Azure function. think that's good. This is the one I'm a little worried about because I think OneDrive might be part of it. And I'm a little worried about this because this kind of thing sounds like true. Just because. So I could have missed at least two. Let's see what happens. 80%. I missed one. I only missed one. Which one was it? Oh, I got them all right, except I didn't get all of these. I believe OneDrive is the other one. I mean, it could be all of them, but let's see which one. It usually tells you where to look. You didn't select all the correct answers. I think it's OneDrive. I should probably go check. In fact, I'm going to. Let's go look. I should probably know this, and because the test will probably. See, these are the worst when they have select all the correct answers. It's like, oh, so you can get it mostly right, but it'll ding you. It'll say, nope, you got it mostly right, but that's not good enough. So I got one wrong out of 5, but it wasn't totally wrong. It was 66% correct. But I guess that's not enough. See, where's the video for this? Because I don't think it, well, actually, I don't even know if I have to watch the video because Azure functions locally by using the core. So you do not need whatever that Azure functions thing is, because I did say false and that was correct. Let's go here. Because like you don't have to run these videos. Oops. You can just go down here and find it. Azure function app. Let's see. What was the question? We want to find out. Oh. Let's just see here. Source, is that not the right video? Azure function is with many deployment sources with the following: Bitbucket, Dropbox, external repository, Git or Mercurial, Git local repository, GitHub, OneDrive, and Azure DevOps video. So OneDrive. That's interesting. You can do OneDrive. And Dropbox, which I don't know if Box counts. Is Box Dropbox? I don't think Box counts, but maybe. You can save this note. Why would I? What would I save that note to? Let's do this.
Azure Functions makes it easy to deploy your function app using app service continuous integration. Azure Functions integrates with many deployment
Copy.
sources.
All right, so I'm going to take that, go put it in my notes.
Dropbox, external repository, Git or Mercurial,
In my notes,
GitHub,
learning notes,
and Azure DevOps. This enables a workflow
and what is this? Functions?
one of these integrated services
Sure.
triggers deployment to Azure. Continuous deployment is a great option for projects where multiple and frequent
Azure Functions.
It also lets you maintain source control on your functions code. You can configure continuous deployment from the Azure
With
portal
many deployment
using
sources.
the
Let's just bold
deployment center
that.
feature of an Azure Functions app. Deployment is configured on a per function app basis. Azure Functions
I'll just
can be
put this
deployed
down here. We'll tab it
using
in.
the push deployment technique. You can do this with the Azure CLI or by using the REST interface. The zip
Actually,
file
let's try to make this pretty for me, huh?
Zip deployment copies these files to the www root folder in the function app.
I don't know what external repository is. So this is one of those ones I'll tell you now. I've seen this when I took my last certification test. See how there's 4, 8, 9 things. If you get this one wrong, and you say on the next practice test, you say, "Give me all the ones I got wrong," you may get 4 completely different options on there, because this has like 9 options. So it'll say which of these are valid. It could be 4 that are good. It could be 1 that's good. It could be 3 that are good. And it could be 4 totally different from the previous time. So you could actually get that question like, you know, some variation that would include all of these that many times. If you take the test over and over, always have that question on there. So you kind of want to remember them all, because you never know when the test is going to go. It's going to drop the one in there you didn't remember. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. That was my experience with the test. If they have a multi-answer thing like that, you are going to have to contend with that problem. Go to next item. Continue. Submit that. Yeah, of course. I'm only doing my own work. Why would I do anyone else's work? That's lame. Why would you do other people's work? You're not learning nothing that way. Okay, so this is test prep. I'm going to kind of take this one off the screen. This is the stuff well, I don't even know if I need to take it off the screen, to be honest, but because you're going to see all these tests. In fact, if you actually go, if you do a certification practice test, for most certification tests, they have practice tests that have actual questions from the test. But like I said, there's way more questions than you're going to get. There's like probably 3 times as many on the practice test. You can go through all the questions, or you can just say, keep giving me. You can go through it, you know, for 60, because it might take too long to go through all of them, right? You want to do it multiple times. So you say, give me whatever's on the test, 60 or so, and then just let me do it timed, so I know I'm getting these done quickly enough, and then just keep doing it until you're consistently getting in the 90s, and you can set the settings to say, give me the ones I missed last time. Give me any I haven't tried yet, you know, that kind of thing. And so this is probably, these questions are most likely on the test. But the only reason I'm taking it off screen is on the off chance that somebody would try to shout out an answer to me, and I don't want anyone to do that. But not that I'm really watching text while I do this, because again, I don't really, you know, I'm trying to learn this stuff myself. I don't know it. I have to practice. You're developing an HTTP Trigger Azure Function app to process Azure blob data. The app is triggered using an output binding on the blob. The app continues to time out after 4 minutes. The app must process the blob data. You need to ensure the app does not process. Solution: use the durable function async pattern to process the blob data. Does the solution meet the goal? Use the durable function async pattern. No. It's timing out after 4 minutes, and I know they said you can up your timeout period to 5, and you can also do some other items. Okay, so I'm going to say no. I don't think it's right, but I'm going to look up this. Questions for myself later. Cleanup resources. Test function URL, general notes. I thought I had a... Oh, here it is, questions. All right, here we go. Nope. Well, that's actually a good one for me to put here. But I didn't write down the question. No, but I'm going to go here and go... This is what I do a lot. I just take practice test questions and keep putting them on here, and then just kind of reviewing them and reviewing them and reviewing them and reviewing them right before the test. And I just kind of keep trying to drill it into my head. Anyway, so you're developing order processing application named Application 1. Wow, that's unique. You plan to develop Application 1 using Azure Functions. The order processing system contains different tasks such as checking the inventory, charging the customer, and creating a shipment. Each task should be developed separately. Which Azure function type should you create? Or charging the customer, creating a shipment. That's probably an orchestrator function, because you're going to do one at a time. You're developing an application that will execute a sequence of activities in a specific order. You have to deploy your application in a serverless compute environment. Which of the below services should you create to deploy your application? Azure Functions. Well, durable functions is not an application. That's just the type of functions you would create in the function. Okay, so you develop a serverless application using several Azure functions. The functions connect to data from within the code. You want to configure tracing for an Azure function app project. You need to change configuration settings in the host.json file. So, I would not recommend, if you're taking the Coursera class, to be watching this. Remember the honor system. Don't do it. You don't, besides, I don't know. This is, like I said, an old class. I feel like it's a little dated. It's a little off. May or may not. Hopefully they'll update it one of these days. Change the questions, change the documents you're using. You develop a serverless application using several Azure functions. The functions connect to data from within the code. You want to configure tracing for an Azure function app project. You need to change configuration settings in the host.json. Which should you use? Develop a serverless application using several Azure data from within the code. You want to configure tracing for an Azure function app project. Core tools. Core tools. I would use any one of these. Functions connect to data from within the code. You want to configure tracing for an Azure function app project. You need to change configuration settings in the host.json. Well, you can do that in any of these. How come it just says, we were doing core tools as our primary goal for this thing, so we'll say that and see what happens. I mean, all of these can do some of this stuff, but I don't know. Maybe you can't do some of it. I don't know. You're developing an application that should execute a sequence of activities in a specific order. Same thing we had before. You plan to achieve that by creating a durable function. Which 3 actions should you perform in sequence to do this? Create an Azure function with consumption plan, install durable functions npm package, and create a durable function. Sounds about right. Create an Azure function with durable plan, install durable functions npm package, create a durable function. Create a durable function is the last thing, right? So you got to actually have create an Azure function with app service plan. No. It's not a consumption plan, because that's what you do all this stuff in. And let's see, how many questions? There's only 7 in this. Okay, so this is 6. You plan on successfully no, I want to plan on unsuccessfully publishing my function projects to Azure using core tools. Which 3 things must be done before? Select all options that apply. Test your function using funcstart. Yeah, we can do that. Create a virtual network in Azure portal. No, I don't think we need to do that. Create a web app in Azure portal. Do we need to do that? Make your function app. Make sure your function app has the same runtime language as your function project. Well, that you have to do. Create a function app in Azure portal. Yes, got to do that too. So we'll say 3. I don't think you have to do a web app or a virtual network. Okay, so true or false? Azure function tools for Visual Studio enable you to deploy an Azure function directly from Visual Studio. Sure. Oh, did not do well. I did not do well. I got to try again. But let's review first, shall we? Uh, Apparently, using the durable function async pattern to process the blob data is the correct answer. I did not get the correct answer. Um, okay, you are developing an order processing application named Application 1. You plan to develop Application 1 using Azure Functions, which I will do. The order process contains different tasks, such as checking the inventory, charging customer, creating a shipment. Each task should be developed separately. So, is it activity then? It's just activities? If we're doing that, which Azure function type should you create? I guess it's activity. You know, interestingly enough, she never spoke about entity, and I don't think there is a client type. Um, Entity was not something we ever went over, so I'm assuming that's not it. Orchestrator was not it, so it must just be activities. Each one is a separate activity. So I got that one wrong. I said orchestrator because you can do a bunch of things in sequence, but ultimately they're saying these have to be developed separately. So I'm guessing that means doing individual activities. Other one missed. Geez, that one's on a roll, man. I missed the first 3. 4. Good grief. I got only the last. So I got the multiple choice right, the one that you have to select all of the ones that are right. Got that one correct. And I was correct about Azure Functions. And I was correct about the order of things to do when you're setting things up. But these other ones, okay. Trying back and reviewing, create and test a simple Azure function locally with Visual Studio. I bet it's Visual Studio. It's like you develop a serverless application using several Azure functions. The functions connect to data from within the code. You want to configure tracing for an Azure function. See, this is where it got me. The configure tracing for an Azure function app project. You need to change configuration settings in the host.json. Now, you would normally set it up in code or something, but I know that when we were doing core tools, we were able to pop up what looked like VS Code and edit the JSON there. So I kind of thought core tools is what they were talking about, but apparently that's not it, and therefore it's Visual Studio. Because the incorrect statement says where to go study, says try going back and reviewing, create and test simple Azure functions locally with Visual Studio. So I think you told me the answer there. Not much more to study. So we will just go ahead and take that as my answer. So ultimately, I think I can just redo this and get it right. Let's try it again. Try again. All of these are pretty straightforward. So yes, apparently this does answer the problem. I didn't think it did, but whatever. It's probably activity, not orchestrator. You know, an application, you have to deploy an application serverless computer environment. Which of the following services should you create to deploy your application? Actually, you know what? I don't remember. I may have gotten that one wrong again because I don't remember that one. I don't remember that question. Visual Studio, which tool should you use? Okay, you are developing an application. Should specific order. You plan to achieve that by creating a durable function. Which 3 actions should you perform in sequence? Oh, okay. Because you gotta look, because they put these in different orders. You got don't just select. Oh, it was first last time. It's first this time. No. Read the questions because they reorder things all the time, and they did. You plan on successfully publishing your functions. 3 things can be done. Select all the functions that apply. Test your function. Create a function app. No web, no network. I don't know Azure function project. Okay. Azure function tools. Yes, true. All right. So I think I got it this time. Unless I was wrong about number 3. Because last time I think I said Azure Functions here. No, it has to be right. Okay, well, I'll just go here. Okay, I still got one wrong. Only one, but everything was right that I thought. So durable functions. You are developing an app that will execute a sequence of activities in a specific order. Well, yeah, that's what durable functions do, but I thought it said it wanted to know what application I need. You have to deploy your application to a serverless compute environment. Okay, I misunderstood that. Okay. I'm not going to do it. I don't have to do it again. I passed. I got 87%. It's not good enough for government work though, which is a stupid saying really. But this one I will put down here because I need to remember that. I think that's it. So yeah, when functions, Visual Studio. These are the kind of things I generally just like to keep all the questions if I can help it, but I'm not because I don't have enough space to record every question. So I gotta record the ones I don't get. I'm gonna be doing a practice test for sure when the. So that's it. Lesson summary. It's 1 minute. It's only a little good job and clean up your mess. She always says, let's talk about cleaning up your mess. Clean up. I just zipped through it because I didn't need to. So finally I got module 4 done. That took way longer than I expected it to. I really kind of thought I was ready to move on. I'm on module 5 now. So there you go. Now we know how to do unit testing with function apps or functions from Visual Studio. That's pretty cool. That'll come in handy, I'm sure of it, assuming I get to actually do work that uses this stuff. Now I just gotta assemble all this stuff in my brain so I can start building my own app with it, start building out my own website, maybe even start building that cool app I want to do I have this idea for what I want to call the Jack of all trades tournament circuit. And I'll talk about that more in the future. But basically it's like, have you ever thought you were good at a bunch of things? Video games, board games, tennis, bowling, sports? What if there was an activity contest that allowed you to put your skills at many things into one bucket and find out who was best? And I was thinking it'd be like a quarterly event, and then like at the end of each quarter, or at the end of each section, either every 3 months or 4 months, the top 10 people get, or maybe the top person overall gets like a small trophy, or maybe even just something like a t-shirt and a gift card. Because it's not going to be high value, high dollar thing. I don't want this to turn into some nonsense thing, but I just think it'd be kind of a fun thing. People could enter it if you think you're good at certain things, and we could even just allow for a lot of different things, as long as they are things that can be competitively measured. It's like say you're good at board games. I'll talk more about that later. I'm gonna change off my stream, but anyway, there's more to it, and I think it'd be kind of cool. I think it'd be fun to set up a website that could do that, allow people to enter in and start creating points. And I have so many ideas going through my head for this. It'd be pretty slick, assuming I ever get to finish it and do it, and that'd be fun. Everybody would have to pitch in, maybe pay $5 or $10 to be part of it, something cheap. But that money would go towards paying for the site that's going to host it, pay for my time putting into it, and provide the prizes at the end of it. That's the goal. And it'd be pretty slick. I think it'd be fun. I don't know how many people will get into it. It all depends on how good at marketing I can figure out. And I'm not good at marketing. If I was, I'd be having X cases in everybody's hands because people love them. Till next time.